Hello, welcome to Calls with Your Kinky Bestie. I'm Emma. I am a submissive and mentor for fellow kinksters. This podcast is all about insights into kinky life and dating, sharing my personal experience and stories, and help share mindset shifts too to get you into a confident space, more confident than you are now. So get ready. It all starts now.
Hey bestie, it's time I told you how I manifested my amazing, beautiful dominant. This is not the story of how we met and our first dates and what dating app we were on and all that kind of stuff, because I've been there, done that, talked about it. You can go find some episodes on it. But I'm going to tell you the energetics and the true manifesting story of all the stuff I did beforehand to prepare and what that process was like, so that if you are also trying to manifest your dominant partner, this will be, inspiring and insightful for you to take these steps away into your own life as well. So if you haven't met me, hi, I'm Emma. I am a kink mentor. I've been in the kinky lifestyle for 6 years now, which is exciting. Over 6 years. And I've been with my dominant, who's my boyfriend, like my partner, for the past, we're closing in on 2 years, but we're not quite there. When we met, he was not experienced in kink. He was closer to vanilla. And now our life is just not that at all. It's so lovely. I wake up to text messages about the dreams that he's having, about the kinky stuff he wants to do to me. He's also just such a supportive and attentive partner as well. What I really, really loved about our relationship, and that's been different to me from past relationships, is that there's not this push and pull. There's never a period of backing away from each other. I never worry that I don't know what he's feeling, or I'm anxious about what's going on or where he sees the relationship going. That's just not in the equation at all. I just feel so truly secure in this partnership, and it is so lovely, and I want it for all of you, and it's so lovely that kink is such a big part of it too, obviously. Okay, so a little bit of a story time. In the years leading up to, honestly, for a lot of my adult dating life, I had this pattern of, what I was being told was that I was intimidating. And I will say I am neurodivergent and an Aries, so I do have this air of coming in hot and heavy and ready to go and talk about the real shit, because I can't deal with, small talk and beating around the bush. It just is not part of I'm not super socially adept in that way. But also, I was quite the pursuer too. I knew that partnership was something I really, really wanted and felt this craving for. And I would kind of do anything to get it. I also had this anxious attachment thing going on, and some limerence from childhood trauma, and just lots of layers. But yeah, the pattern was I was the pursuer, and I was being rejected a lot, and I was being told that I was intimidating, and yeah, fun stuff like that. And so the first thing that I started, when I started to reflect and really make progress, there was this period where I went, okay, something I'm doing is not working. So I'm going to pivot and try something else, because this pattern, hey, I've been down this road. It is really not a fun one. It's not getting me the results that I want. And I don't understand why, but let me learn more about this so that I can make some changes. And so the first thing that I got really serious about was being a sub. Learning about submission and bringing that into areas of my life where I was interacting with people and meeting people, because there was this paradox happening. And like we talk about this a lot with subs, right? Like this idea that there's this duality of people who are submissive are super not submissive in their real daily lives. So this is like their retreat into submission. So you see a lot of subs who are like have super high powered careers and are business owners or like high level executives or just like people doing cool shit and like really getting after it, which is so cool. And I like it's a real thing. It's a real thing. But I was in this paradox of saying I wanted to be a sub or saying, identifying as being a submissive, but without having a dominant partner, I wasn't actually getting time to be submissive. And all of my time was instead spent in more of that like dominant high power energy of like getting shit done, like, trying to, pursue what I wanted, not trying, like pursuing what I wanted and doing cool things. So because I wasn't experiencing it, I wasn't getting it because, I would walk into a room and it was like I owned it, you know? Which is great. Which is great if that's what you want. But for me, I really wanted to be a sub. Like I wanted a dominant partner to kind of, relax into. And so whenever, yeah, all of my waking hours are spent in a totally different energy, how the fuck is somebody else supposed to pick up on like this is what's going on with you and what you want? So that was the first thing that I really started learning about was how to start like releasing control and leaning into my submission in like other areas of my life where I was interacting with people too. And not even necessarily like obviously in like the workplace and things like that. Like I was in, I've almost always been in leadership positions whenever I have worked jobs. So and like in a case like that, it wouldn't necessarily be appropriate for me to be submissive all the time. But like it was more about strengthening that muscle and spending time doing it. And so, like, yes, while there were circumstances that, like, hey, I probably shouldn't be slipping into this, there's a lot of social circumstances and some work circumstances and things like that where actually, yeah, you don't have to be in control. And that was a hard lesson to learn because, yeah, it's not super comfortable. It's the same thing as, like actually, giving up your submission in a bedroom setting too. Like, it's not always comfortable. So, that was the first thing I got clear on. But let me talk about the other thing that was happening. And it's that like I was having these patterns of like really like pursuing relationships is what I wanted. And yeah, just that never quite working out, being told I was intimidating or, just like it wasn't a social fit or like whatever it was. But I was anxiously attached. So one thing I had a really hard time with was even people who like, weren't aligned with what I wanted. Like I was saying, hey, I want a relationship. And they were saying either I don't want a relationship or just not saying anything or like none of their actions were lining up with that was the thing that they wanted too. I would still have a really hard time saying no to that because I just wanted it so badly. So instead of like accepting that like, okay, this is where they are and like, let me just move on and then find the person who does want this, I think it was a form of self-sabotage to instead say like, no, I'm just going to continue pursuing this thing because I really want it to be this person and like trying to control exactly who my partner would be, which is silly because if who I wanted my partner to be was someone who literally didn't want to be with me, or like have aligned life goals, like it's just so silly to think about. And even if you would have told me that then, like still that was the headspace that I was in. I was just really having a hard time saying no because I wanted this so badly. So it became a real struggle to then start, I guess decluttering is the word, to start then making space for people that do have my aligned goals. So that I had to actually start like saying no and like turning away from things. And that was I think the hardest part, especially if you have childhood trauma as well and have limerence for people. Which if you don't know about limerence, if you're anxiously attached or any of this like last little bit I was chatting about seemed resonant for you, I highly recommend doing some research. Yeah. And then the other thing I noticed with this was whenever I was with someone who was not a great fit for whatever reason, is that whenever I couldn't say no or was struggling to like end things even though that they weren't aligned, just because I liked this person and wanted to keep spending time with them. Part of the struggle with that is because I would have such a hard time saying no to them. It then put this pressure on the other person to be the person to say no and like do the rejection. So in the moment of that felt really hurtful, being rejected again and again and again. But it was also, in retrospect, very kind, because they were really helping me then make space for this thing that I wanted. So if you are in that type of place where a lot of rejection is coming to you, oh my gosh, just give them a little mental like thank you, and trust that like, yeah, they are here, they are leaving to make space for your person or your people, depending on what you're wanting. Because your partner would never reject you or leave, because if someone is your partner, they wouldn't be doing that, because that would mean that they would not be your partner if they were saying no to a relationship with you or whatever it is. And then the other thing I did was building spaciousness into my life. So the same way that like saying no or like being told no or just like ending connections with people who, weren't my aligned partners. So I had to, like, because that was building space, like that was building literally more time in my mental dating capacity and my schedule to then date people who did want to be in relationships and things like that. It also like let me release stress to like things like that were like clogging up the pipes energetically. So by building spaciousness, so those relationships ending built spaciousness. But then I think another key piece is like building spaciousness into other areas of your life that may be really time consuming. So if you're in a state where like you're really pursuing goals in another area of your life, and you're, putting a lot of time and energy into that, well, when are you going to go on this date with this person? Like, when are you going to build this relationship that you want to have? So it's like the literal nature of that, like literally just building space and time into chatting with, people and meeting people and building connections. And that's something that I wasn't super consciously doing at the time, but I definitely noticed the pattern afterwards. Like I met my partner around the time that like I was graduating from a program, so I suddenly like all this time suddenly freed up where I had felt so stressed and just like putting so much time and energy into this thing, that I noticed whenever like that started to release, and like releasing this other job that was stressful and stuff like that, like that also built space into my life for him to then come in. So we'll take a little pause here, come back and talk about it, but don't go away, because I'm going to tell you the real game changer and how I almost didn't end up with my partner, and how you can avoid that, because you don't want to miss out on your partner. All right, we'll chat soon.
Just a little break to share that if you are loving this podcast and my content, if I'm someone you could see yourself working with, but you're wanting more direct support for your specific situation, I do offer mentorship. It's personalized to you, private video or phone calls with me, so you can chat about your situation and figure out a solution that's going to work for you. You can visit my website. It is kinkybestie.com/mentorships to see what's available and to book in your spot on my calendar. It's kinky with a Y at the end and bestie with an IE at the end. The link will be in the show notes, so you can check it out there. Back to the show.
Okay, we're back, and we're talking about how I manifested my dom. This is the part that really made the biggest shifts, and this is when I really started noticing like all the manifestation work that I had been doing come into play. And that was once I had set my intentions and said to the universe, this is what I want. and started like decluttering and getting serious about it. I didn't say this before because the segment was kind of getting long, but I did a lot of physical decluttering as well. Like I was preparing because like at the time I was living in a studio apartment, which wasn't really conducive to having another person in the space. Like it was really difficult to share that space with people. It's just really compact. So part of this life that I wanted to create, also where I had a partner, also involved having a space that was set up for a partner. So I was literally decluttering my shit so that I could move and have a space for a partner's things as well. But in addition to all of that, the other thing I did was I started to get just like curious with the universe. And what I mean is, so whenever I was attracting people that weren't the right fit for whatever reason, like they were always people that I was really attracted to for whatever reason. But the thing was, because I was attracting people from a space of like, okay, my life isn't really set up for this. I'm not really willing to say no to people who aren't aligned. Like I was not attracting to the wrong people. I was not attracting the wrong people. I was not attracting the right people. So whenever I set this intention and got really clear about also just like practicing my submission, I also decided like, hey, universe, I'm going to let you bring my person to me and just be open and curious about who that is and what that means. So instead of me being in the driver's seat with the dating game and like, being super selective about who I'm picking and then being super like controlling and selective about like how every step of our dating journey is going to go. Instead, I was being a little bit more like open with swiping. Like I was just like, you know what? I can actually see this person being a good partner, because before, right? Like I was swiping on people just because like I thought that they would be a fun time. But I wasn't really paying attention to the partner factor as much. And so instead, by like reprioritizing that and making that the lens, I was swiping a little bit differently and just deciding to be a little bit more open with it as well. And then step into my submissive role more. So instead, letting the people who, I'm matching with be more of the drivers. And that was really when the magic started to happen, was whenever I instead just got open and curious with the universe about like, who are you going to bring me that is going to match what I'm asking for? Because I know it's going to happen, or I know that if I'm not ready or there's something else that needs to happen first, and then I know that that is going to happen first, that the person who's going to teach me this lesson to get me ready for my partner is going to come in first. So either way, I'm open. I'm open and curious to what you have to present to me, universe. So by stepping more into my subby role and just being curious rather than being the controller of how my dating would go, that is how I met my partner. That's how I met him. And whenever, people who weren't aligned would come in, they would leave really quickly because, I was now vibrating at this energy of someone who's like getting ready to move, to be in a space where I can really easily have a partner, just clear about what I want and all that kind of stuff, which just wasn't going to be aligned with someone who was fucking around, So whenever that started to happen, my lovely Dom came into the picture, and he was really, the driving force for everything, like being the one to set up a lot of our dates and like really being, the true driver. Which is interesting because while he wasn't practiced in kink, he very much, is a dominant person. Like that's just so like deeply embedded in his nature. He's also a man. He's pretty manly as well. Not saying that, being manly is being synonymous with dominance, but it just suits him really well. And so, your perfect dominant, they might not actually know about kink yet. It's still like a small enough piece of the world where not everyone has had the opportunity to learn about it. Or, it's still kind of a subversive thing. So some people might, for social reasons or whatever, like not even really consider it as an option or just not even understand it from what's portrayed in the media, right? Because there's a lot of mainstream representations of BDSM and power play dynamics that aren't accurate at all. So maybe, you're a person who's meant to be your lovely, amazing person who can check all those boxes for you just doesn't identify as a dom because all they've heard about kink is, watching a 50 Shades of Grey movie and not really getting into it because what the fuck. So that's just a little example. And then this is small, but I think one of the other ways that this happened is that I wasn't just dating, like I was also doing other life shit. So while there was spaciousness built in, and I had, just moved on from this thing that was really stressful and really time consuming, like I was still working on myself and still doing things. So like I was, pursuing another job and getting really into that and having fun with it. And it was more of, like a fun job rather than like a stressful soul sucking one, which is good. Because, it definitely let me relax more and get into that subby energy more. Just all that kind of stuff. So I'm getting a little sleepy. And it's my birthday eve, though it's not when you're listening to this episode because I tend to batch them a couple weeks ahead. So I'm going to end it here, but I hope this was really helpful for you, learning more about the energetics and how I actually manifested my dom and what my life looked like beforehand, and also a lot of the mindset stuff I had to get into. So yeah, I hope this is super helpful. Also, if you are in the kinky dating journey, I literally have a kinky dating course where I talk about more of the like nitty gritty how stuff. It's called the Kinky Dating Kickoff. I'll have it linked in the show notes so that you can check it out. And if nothing else, be in my world, follow me on the places, like and subscribe, or, follow or review the show or whatever. I don't know, all the social media things. Just, find a way that we can stay in touch. So whether that's following the show so that new episodes will come into your circle, or following on social media so that you'll get things shown to you that way. I also have a newsletter list where I will email you new podcast episodes and like more of the behind the scenes life updates that I can't really put on a lot of social media channels in clear detail. So yes. All right. Well, we will chat later, dear one, and good luck with wherever you are in your lovely kinky journey, wherever that can be. I am grateful to have been a part of it, and yeah, hope I help shift some things into place for you here. All right. Bye.
Thank you so much for joining me this episode. You can follow the podcast on the platform where you're listening to get updates with new episodes. You can follow me on social media at Kinky Bestie. I'm on Instagram. You can also check the show notes for any links or resources that I talked about in this episode, or just more ways to connect with me. And please share this with your kinky friends who could benefit from this type of content. There is also an option for each podcast episode to engage with Q&As or polls. So I'd love to hear from you and create future episodes around what you want to chime in with. So please check those out in the show notes too. And I look forward to hearing from you. Bye.